just let they just come back?
I thought I made myself perfectly clear. I will not be overshadowed by a Pakistani and a Spaniard on my own platform. The point of this was to give them something to keep them out of my hair. Not so they would get more popular than I am. This is my show. This isn't Jack's show or Austin's show or any of their show. It's mine. I am the pop culture corner, not them. It was a way for me to look diverse and like I included others.
Sir, I promise I will keep up the work on stopping people from coming in and watching, but...
What is it? Spit it out, idiot. What is it?
I'm even starting to like...
Nonsense! Fine. I'll do it myself.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, please help us. Please help us. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and genders of all ages here on social media in the United States and across the globe. I want to thank Tyler for that opening skit. He told us he was doing something.
He did.
But he didn't tell us what. But I thought that was great. By the way, that is how Tyler is off camera all the time. That voice he uses on the podcast, that's his radio voice. He actually speaks like that when he's at the grocery store, you know, when he's talking to the mail person, you know.
Yeah, what you guys don't know is that, that's how he normally sounds.
And that's not red lights. That's just a natural aura emanating off of him. I want to thank Ty for that. That was great. I loved that. We hadn't seen that, by the way. We're not making that up. We did not see that.
That was absolutely amazing. That was hilarious. I am a bit worried, but at the same time, great job. Great job.
I loved it. I loved it. That was great. I think he was talking to Caden. I think that was Caden.
Is that who he was?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, we don't know.
Well, even Caden was a little taken back by that. He's like, "Oh man."
Yeah, guys, thanks for joining us in the chat. I really appreciate all of you who joined us. We have a lot to talk about today. We actually have a lot of DC stuff to talk about today, and we also have our first live guest, who is saying what? Austin, what is this gentleman saying?
So we've this is a good friend of mine, my friend Donovan from over at Into the West Comics is going to be joining us here in a little bit. And we had a great conversation a while back, actually, with Sean O'Connell. And he asked a great question: is that, has the MCU kind of ruined comic book movies for us? And so I want to get into that question there. I want to deep dive into that and get some answers.
Oh, that's going to be cool. That's going to be coming up really soon. We have a lot to talk about today, so hell, let's get into it. All right, first things first. You've been telling me for weeks to watch the show Invincible. Last night I had nothing to do. Then I watched paint dry.
I like how you waited until that.
I had nothing to do.
But I'll take it. It's all right.
I cleaned the bathroom. I ran out of things to do in the sunlight. I'm like, fine, I'll watch this show. I did start watching it. I'm about 4, maybe 4.5 episodes in. But I got to admit, I do like it. I know Robert Kirkman did it, and he had written the show, or he written a comic, and the show is based on the comic. But I got to admit, I really, really liked it. I was worried it was going to be like The Boys 2.0, Like,
and
the boys are popular. Let's make another Boys where you have evil superheroes.
Right.
And
it's got a little bit of that, right? It's got a little hint of that, obviously, with right now you're you don't really know Omni-Man's full intentions or what happened there, or was he being mind controlled, or but I think that's just one of the things that drew me in right from the very first episode. I kind of want to hear what you thought about it. Right, that first episode is such a so deceiving, man.
Because the first let's say it's a 45-minute episode. The first 40 minutes seem like it's going to be a regular, almost kind of DC animated cartoon. Like, okay, good guys, yada yada yada. And I was like, this is Robert Kirkman. So part of me is like, something's going to hit the fan at some point, and I do regret not watching it earlier. You had been bragging about it. Ty had been talking about it. Like, it's a really good show. But the last 5 minutes, I'm not going to say what happens, but holy crap.
I think we can say we know at this point people have seen it. Those last 5 minutes, and we've talked about it on the show. It's a brutal last 5 minutes.
It's a brutal scene, and I like that we're 4 or 5 episodes in. At least I am so far, and we're still not sure why he did it. I'm not sure if it's revealed in the last episode, if it's coming up or not. But I gotta admit, I like it, and these two over here kind of give me a Huey and Stargirl or whatever her name is, in the boys kind of vibe. Yeah, that kind of vibe.
I will say one thing I like that the show doesn't, because it's very easy. You can kind of pick up that they might get together. Yeah. And they don't, and I love that. I love that
at all.
No, they're not going to get. He's with that one chick that he's the normal non-superhero chick. Yeah,
who's from Deadpool too. She played Domino.
Yeah, exactly. Domino from Deadpool. So
she's kind of getting on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah, she does a few things too that I was kind of like, oh man, but you gotta have some characters that you can't like all the characters, right? Yeah, even the bad guys in this show, you're watching it and you're like, man, even these bad guys are pretty badass, man. Like, I'm pretty like they got some cool motivations. I'm trying to think. Have you made it to the? You said you're on episode 4.
I think I finished 4, and I think I started watching 5, and I might have stopped because otherwise I would have kept going.
Where did you leave off?
Where I left off, there's a black villain named Titan, I think.
Yes, Titan.
And he asked him for his help, and and I like how it didn't go where you thought it was going to go. All these other super villains come out, and then the Guardians show up to back him up, and be like, okay, now they're going to win. And no, it doesn't really go that way. And what you see is what's his name?
Omni-Man.
Omni-Man. He's up there watching this.
Watching his son.
It's almost like he wanted it to happen. Yeah, watching his son die. And the next episode, they're in a hospital, and what's the name of the girl? The red-haired girl who I just showed. But this girl, the one on the right, she gets a phone call. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Adam Eve. Yeah, I was trying to remember what her name was. Was it Amber or something? I don't know.
Oh, her name. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. But, folks, if you haven't seen Invincible, please check it out. I highly recommend it. It is on Amazon Prime. I do want to thank everyone who we have. We have Prakash is here. Namaste. We have Nick Carr, Adam Sylvester saying Invincible is amazing. We have Austin. That's you. We have Adam Caselli. Here you go. Welcome back. Billy Roberts is here. Thank you guys for joining us. Listen, thank you in the last week for, if you were a patron, for switching over. Now we have a join button. Now we're monetized. Now we're real YouTubers, just like Jody, but we're real YouTubers. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We are constantly looking feedback. We do a morning show. We do Quick Dip. We do a big podcast on Saturdays. And, we're always coming up with new ideas and ways to entertain you. Let it be said that there is nothing I won't do to Austin to make you people happy, but we will do it. If Austin has to start hurting himself, like hitting himself with a hammer next week, you never know. We will do it. So please, folks, thank you for joining us. And if you're interested in becoming a member, we have a 3-tier system. We have the 3rd-tier system, only $3 a month. All right. Tell me that's not bad. Called the drip one because it's the bottom one. Then you have the Jack Attack tier, which is a little bit more. Help us. Help him. If only I knew how to read. And the top tier, which is TY's tier. It's got the coolest things. We got a video. So anytime you see a video by Pop Culture Corner, make sure you look it up. It explains everything.
And the beautiful thing is actually I went to join the other day, and as soon as you hit that join button, the video pops up with an explanation of all the tiers and stuff. So just go hit the join button, guys. Just go hit it. Just go. That's all you got to do.
We desperately need your help because look, now that we're monetized, we're starting to do giveaways. We're giving away little trinkets here and there.
These are the only 3 posters I have, and I need more posters.
And I have no posters. I had to draw that. I
had to draw. That is terrible. That is That is not.
Well,
yeah.
I'm right-handed. I do that with my left, so
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense on why it's so bad.
But any support you guys can give. Look, now that we're monetized, we have ads. Do me a favor. Don't use ad block. Don't skip ads, at least for us. I know it's annoying, but just let the ads play. Those little 30 seconds really help us. So please, folks, do that. Also, check out Invincible. And you know what? There was another thing you told me to watch, and I actually did watch it. So let's talk about that. Usually when Austin recommends something, but yesterday I did check out Beau Burnham's Inside.
Yeah.
First 10, 15 minutes, I was not digging it. I was like, oh.
Love it.
But then I kept letting it play because I was stretching. I was about to work out. I'm like, what else am I going to have on? And then like the White Woman Instagram song played. Folks, you got to check it out. It was really funny. It was really good. I do want to talk more about it and get into it a little bit more. But who is Beau Burnham? Just tell me a little bit real quick. He's a comedian, right?
Yeah, so he is a stand-up comedian. He's been around probably for the last 15 years. It's kind of funny. I was watching a movie the other day called Funny People. It's an older Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I remember that one,
film. Really funny. He's got a role in that, a small part in that. But basically, yeah, he's a stand-up comedian. He's been doing this for quite some time, but this is his first special in a while, and I was able to watch it and do a little review for it. So.
Okay, so I think Ty's going to pull up the review. Austin recorded. Mm-hmm. So special. We've recorded his own video. I
did it. I'm a big boy now.
So, yeah, let's check it out.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Flossin' with Austin. Today, we are going to be talking about and reviewing Beau Burnham's new Netflix special called Inside. That's right, it is out on Netflix, released this last weekend. So we're going to talk a little bit about Beau Burnham, kind of where he started, where he came from. He's been a star on the rise for quite some time now. He had little roles in movies like Funny People, TV shows like Parks and Rec. You might have seen him in other things like Rough Night is another film that he had a small role in. So he's slowly been making a rise and name of himself for quite some time. He had two really incredibly popular stand-up specials that released also on Netflix and was a part of a lot of Comedy Central, stand-up specials as well. So he had What and Make Happy were his two stand-up specials in which he really started to utilize music, right, as his way of comedy. He has a very dark, ironic sense of humor. So he released two critically acclaimed stand-up specials called What and Make Happy. These two specials kind of cemented himself as the type of comedian that he is, using music and ironic humor to kind of break through to people, just do things differently. He actually directed a film to much critical acclaim and a lot of independent awards called 8th Grade. He wrote and directed it a few years ago in 2018, I believe, and hasn't really done any stand-up for the past 5 years. He hasn't done any comedy specials or anything like that. He took off to direct and write 8th Grade, as well as take a starring and supporting role in the most recent Academy Award-winning Promising Young Woman. We get to the special, right? Inside is Beau Burnham's first comedy special in 5 years. He kind of makes note of it towards the second half of the special, and it's really unique and different than any other special that I've seen, not only during the pandemic era, but before. He makes use, obviously, of his time inside, and over the course of the year in the pandemic, he makes these different edits and songs and videos and cuts. He basically sits down, gets real raw and in your face with some of these songs, talks about some of the things that we all went through in the pandemic, right? Like, FaceTiming your parents because the new norm instead of going to see them, or white women on Instagram and their favorite random things that they just post on there because. So he really makes use of the things that we all went through the pandemic and makes a good joke about it. But also then in the second half begins to actually ask, is this a time or a thing that we should be joking about? What is it like to be a comedian during a pandemic with no way or no audience to put your material out there? So it's this really beautiful inside, if you will, look into Beau Burnham and in his mind and into what he was going through during this time and what maybe all of us were going through during this time. So the second half takes a real tonal shift in becoming a much more serious and self-reflective special than your normal type of all comedy all the time special. There's a lot of realism to it, but there's also just a lot of great little filmmaker aspects to it as well. The camera work is incredible. He shot this all by himself, directed it all by himself with the use of multiple cameras and lights, and everything just looks absolutely gorgeous. It's weird to say that a comedy special is so visually stunning, so visually stands out from the rest. He brings in other characters like Sako, who were popular before, and again also brings in the comedy, but again adds this sense of realism to it as well. At the end of the day, I really think that this was a reinvention of comedy in itself, and I think comedy has needed a reinvention for quite some time. You get the standard stand-up, the standard, making fun of yourself or making fun of the people around you, and this was just this self-reflective, very raw, very emotional, but very real, and at times very, very funny inside look at one specific person. And I think that in itself, Beau has completely just redefined and reinvented, comedy pandemic specials as we know it. He's really created something of his own, something unique, something different. And I can't highly, highly recommend this enough. Beau Burnham's Inside is on Netflix now. This has been Flossin' with Austin. Yeah, he's muted.
I mute myself because I don't make any noise
every time, man.
I always mute myself.
So
it's a
considerate.
subconscious need to get myself canceled. But that looked really fresh. It's almost like it was filmed earlier today.
I know, right? Moments before the show, almost.
Yeah. Or you just change your shirt and your hair real quick. But yeah, folks,
right.
I'll be honest with you. I was very skeptical about this, because when he described it, I'm like, I don't know if this is my kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm a Bill Burr guy. I mean, he's the only modern comedian I really like. I think Prakash or someone was saying that they don't really like this guy. So I'd never heard of him.
Or Nick Card. Yeah, Nick
Card said he didn't like him. I'd never heard of him.
Yeah.
Until you mentioned him. And I vaguely remember this episode of Parks and Recs, vaguely. But I got to admit, 15 minutes in, it kind of reminded me like a TV show. You got to watch like the first 2 episodes to figure it out. Once I saw where he was going with it, I thought at some point a live crowd would show up or something. No. But yeah, it's pretty intense. I really was like, damn.
It is. It's kind of funny. I rewatched it a little bit this morning. And it's pretty intense. And I do recognize, right, it's a very specific sense of humor. It's a very specific type of humor. It's very dark at times. However, for me, I got started right in all of this and grew up in improv and comedy and doing all that type of stuff. I was with an improv troupe for 4 years. I did live comedy and stand-up and live improv in front of, thousands of people. And so I can understand a little bit where he's coming from. There's a very dark part of it, right? Very dark side of comedy that isn't shown very much. And I think he shows it in a very understandable light, right? Yeah. Because it's kind of hard, right? I think for everyday people to say, oh, how can a comedian have, be depressed or upset? They have money, they have this, they have that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot he draws from personally. That
I think a lot of comedians have like a dark background. Yeah. I think I've heard the rumor that a lot of times the reason they're funny is because they've suffered emotionally, and
Absolutely.
They use comedy as an outlet. And you look at what happened with Robin Williams, you look at a lot of other comedians who left us too soon. There is a kind of a dark, and I'm not saying, nobody has that, but the reason they're that good or able to, be funny is because they can see things a certain way that we can't.
Yeah, I think Robin, and you know what? I would compare Beau to Robin Williams. I would compare Beau to, because him and Robin both have this similar quality where they can make you burst your gut laughing. The Sako stuff was killing me because Sako
is that a reference to Mick Foley from the WWE? He used to have a thing called Mr. Sako.
I think so. Yeah. And I think so. I believe so. And so I was dying at the whole Sako thing. I was dying at the whole white woman on Instagram, but he's also heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like in a sense.
There's a part he starts sobbing. I thought it was an act, and he's like, I'm not doing
real.
Well. And he starts crying. You're like, damn.
It's very real.
This is kind of got real.
Yeah. And so I love any artist who can show, who can have those two sides, because they're both very real sides, right? He is a stand-up comedian, but also what do you do when there's nowhere to promote? He talks about in the special how in January of 2020, he had gone through 5 years of not performing live and went through some mental health stuff, and just he would have panic attacks on stage.
Yeah.
And so January 2020, he's like, I'm going to get back at it, man. It's time. I'm ready. And then the pandemic happens.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, that's ironic,
So claustrophobic about that room he's in. I don't know. Like,
yeah, there is. But that's part of the feeling, right? That's part of the feeling of the whole
it's
show.
a really
You're
small room,
feel,
he does everything in there.
You're meant to feel like him. You're claustrophobic. You're stuck. Things are a mess. You can't really change anything, especially as a viewer, right? So there is this claustrophobia feeling that I think absolutely, was intended for sure.
Yeah, folks, I recommend it. Again, you're going to watch it. You're going to be like, okay, what is this? And it's kind of like, whatever. Get through the first 15 minutes. Moving on next, we have some DCEU news. This just happened moments before we came on air. We have a new look at Shazam, the new Shazam movie. Here we go. We have 2 photos on set. Take a look. Woo.
Yeah, man, I love that suit. That's
he looks
the suit that I want to see.
He looks more cut, I think, he was big in the other one, but people asked if there was any padding. There is no padding on this one.
No padding there. That looks like full muscle, boy.
That's all muscle. People came after him like, oh, dude, you're definitely padded up or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I worked out really hard to get in shape for this. But I loved the first Shazam
Look at that.
movie.
He's jacked there. Look at that. Yeah. He's even doing the pose. He's like,
that kind of reminds me of like the Henry Cavill Superman suit, like really skin tight. Like you can see the abs and the veins rippling through the suit.
But there's muscles on his face, Jack. There are muscles on his face.
He's like, I'm at best like 29. It's like, no. But yeah, I'm excited for Shazam too. Look, at times it felt like the most Marvel movie, but it was the movie that should be family friendly. You don't want it to be too intense.
It's the DC movie that understandably would look most like a Marvel movie, right?
Exactly.
Obviously centers around a kid who magically turns into a grown superhuman man.
Yeah.
So I do think
it has an adolescence feel to it that I love.
But you know what? They did a phenomenal job with it. I honestly thought, I would even go as far as to say they would probably have done a better job of it if Marvel had done it. And it's a very Marvel type movie.
Yeah.
I really love Zachary Levi. Is it Levi?
Yeah, Zachary Levi. Yeah.
Levi. I love him in the role. I think he absolutely kills it.
He was in a show called.
Wasn't he in Chuck?
Ted or Chuck? Yeah, it was Ted. Yeah, Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck.
It doesn't even look like him anymore.
Yeah, so
he looks like he ate Chuck.
Right. So Tyler says the suits are always built to make their muscles stand out. Yeah. That's usually
true. But the one they had in Shazam, I think they were accusing him of padding it up and stuff like that. Whether he did or not,
Right. So I wasn't crazy about the first suit. The first suit was white, right? It was white with the
with the white cape. Yeah. No, it was red, but it had a white cape too.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other thing is it's supposed to be looking ridiculous. There's even a scene where someone in the train kind of makes fun of his outfit. Right. And another person makes fun of his cape. Like they're not, pulling any punches that, this is a little bit silly. And that's okay. You can enjoy the silliness of it. But this is a movie that I'm really, really looking forward to. I think he looks great. I think he looks phenomenal. I'm excited about that. But speaking of DC, our boy Henry Cavill has been cast as Highlander. Duncan MacLeod. It took me a second to remember the guy's name. Duncan MacLeod. So Lionsgate is making this movie. Lionsgate loves Henry Cavill. Paramount, who made Mission Impossible, loves Henry Cavill. Netflix loves Henry Cavill so much that not only did they put him in The Witcher, they also gave him a secondary role in the Enola Holmes movie, and he's going to be in the sequel. Why is it that every studio loves this guy except for Warner Brothers?
Well, it seems like everybody's in the in the Henry Cavill business except Warner Brothers, like you said.
They're like, we're the guy, we're the ones who found him, made him famous, but we don't like him anymore.
Right? Yeah. It's hey man, but you know what? Good for him. He's actively taking on franchises. He is. Yeah. I love what he's done with The Witcher. The Witcher's his. in my humble opinion, The Witcher is his. He
And
is that show.
He's great.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot. This is just another franchise, right, for him to kind of take
not only
over.
that, there are rumors that he might be in the Mass Effect. There's a movie or project rumored that he might be involved in that.
That would be crazy.
But it's kind of crazy, though. You know, especially after the Snyder Cut, with the success of the Snyder Cut, you know, you would think that they would reconsider. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this has been a recurring theme for the last couple of months. But, like, you have a bona fide star in Henry Cavill. Okay, maybe 5 years ago he wasn't, 6 years ago he wasn't, but he's clearly a star now.
Yeah.
Why not make Man of Steel 2? Okay, you don't like the Snyder Vision, have another director do a Man of Steel 2 with maybe
I heard
more of a...
Christopher McQuarrie had a Superman sequel that would have stayed, and Christopher McQuarrie said it was in the Snyderverse. It would have not affected any of that. So I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, I would love to see that too. Look, we got more stuff coming, but before we do that, we are going to be joined by a guest named Donovan.
That's right.
Right? He's one of your friends.
Right. My boy, my good friend, my mentor.
And he has a hot take that I'm sure is going to set the comment section on fire, and that's what we want. We want the hate. So let me bring him in right now. Here we go.
Look at him. Oh, man. I love it.
Hi, Donovan. How are you? My name is Jack. Gentlemen. Welcome to Jivin' with Jack.
I am happy to be here. Thanks for having me, gentlemen. This is a real honor and a real privilege, and I can't wait to really, really mess with people's minds and break heart taps. I don't know, but something's going to happen while we're here, and I'm excited.
We need to look. We court controversy here. Yesterday, or Tuesday, we're talking about cancel culture. The week before, we did a segment where I just crapped all over WandaVision and that was called Falcon and Winter Soldier. Now, let me preface this before we start. I actually do like the MCU, but I see a lot of issues that we've kind of gotten okay with, and that's a problem. But tell me what we promoted as the MCU is making comic book movies bad. So go ahead, take it, Donovan, from Into the West.
Well, okay, so is Marvel making comic book movies mad, or are they making the way we view movies in a expanded universe? Are they making that bad? And I think as we watch these movies and we go in, you guys were talking about Warner Brothers before I came on, maybe 3 minutes before you guys had me on, and I was listening to what you were saying about Warner Brothers and Henry Cavill and all this stuff. Like, we all know the DCEU can't get it together. Nope. They just won't get it together. And I often wonder, had Marvel not been as successful as it was, would we be as critical with the DCEU as we are now? And I believe the answer to that is no.
No.
Yeah.
I think the success of Marvel and what Marvel's been able to do on all of our psyches and our consciousness, with how they released the post-trailer, because before we never really got post-trailer scenes in movies, and if we did, it was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And it was often an Easter egg or a deleted scene that the directors wanted to have but couldn't. So now you're starting to see this trend of people. I mean, we went and saw Army of the Dead when it came out a couple weeks ago, and we stayed after the credits to see if there was anything else.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Why?
We're just trained.
We're just drained. You know what it is? And I think your point is right. We're so, like, a lot of people will watch a movie, let's say like BVS. Okay, fine. Take BVS out of the equation. That was divisive. Let's say Zack Snyder's just, they need to do more like Marvel because that's real comic books. And I was saying earlier to Austin while we were recording his segment, like, a lot of people I think who are into the MCU never read the comics, don't know that Spider-Man can get really intense.
Right.
Daredevil is really intense. Punisher is the actual Civil War in the comics was really intense. Like, if you don't like the intense stuff, don't read the comics.
Even
and I'm like,
me, growing up reading Ultron, I remember Ultron being way more brutal than that was, in Age of Ultron, Yeah,
I mean, there's an intensity, and some people will say, "Oh, you mean dark? You want it to be darker?" I said, "No, just more intense." The comics are really intense. These characters go through some crap. Sorry, we can't.
I would even replace the word intense with adult.
Yeah,
we want more adult content from the Marvel universe, and I hate to break it to you folks, that ain't happening anytime soon.
Right.
And if it is, we're going to get little bits and pieces of it, and the most adult we'll get is Deadpool, and even that is like geared for 14, 15-year-old boys who love stupid poop jokes and all that stuff. So,
Yep.
we're not going to get what we actually really want
need
from the MCU.
and the MCU, in a sense, has conditioned people into saying, oh, that's how the comics really are. There's a whole generation of comic book fans who think that Tony Stark created Ultron.
Right. Yeah.
Who don't read the comics. Who I'm saying don't read the comics. Who watch the movies and were like, oh, so this is how it was. To kind of pivot on that, like in my Jack Attack last week, which you should definitely check out. I mentioned that the only Marvel content that we got from within the Disney sphere was the Netflix shows. And everyone's excited that, look, Daredevil might be joining, Punisher might be joining the MCU. But I've been very, very hesitant about Marvel Studios and Disney taking over the Punisher, taking over Charlie Cox's Daredevil, even if it's the same actors, because I don't think you would get the quality of writing that you got in the Netflix shows, because their Netflix wasn't trying to make the shows for kids. And it's also one of the reasons why I still doubt a an R-rated Deadpool 3 is going to come out. I know they're saying they're going to do it, but I have a weird feeling they're going to be like, dude, we still need kids to come and see these movies.
I think if Marvel and Disney are smart, they still make Daredevil, they still make Punisher the way it was being done on Netflix. They also own Hulu. You throw that content on Hulu, and I think that kind of disguises under the Disney banners, like, hey, Disney Plus, let's see this. I forget who I was talking to about this, but I actually enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier for its violence. It was actually kind of violent. It had sort of like an Indiana Jones-esque violence to it. Wasn't quite
PG violence.
It to me it worked, and it wasn't too like hokey or bad. I actually didn't mind it, but as far as some of the themes they hit on, I think they were a little too on the head.
Oh yeah, that's what my issue was.
And I was like, okay, yes, we know
Ghost Rider's another
what's
good
going
one
on here. Ghost Rider would be great. I think Ghost Rider would be the actual show that you introduce Mephisto, and that's where you.
Well, I was going to say there's a scene in the first season of Jessica Jones, which I thought was the only good season. They had really good season, where her and Luke Cage, you beat Luke Cage for her. They have sex and break a bed. That is very much in the comics. You can't put that in a movie, a PG-13. There's no nudity. It's just her on top of him, and they break the damn bed, riding him so hard because they're so super beings. I'm like, let's see, you're not going to get that in the movies, But for me, my issue with the MCU movies, I love them. I have every one of them except for Captain Marvel, which I didn't buy just because I'll wait till it's at the Walmart bin. But like once Endgame, once the high of Endgame finished for me, and we were talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we're talking about why those movies were different. I kind of look back at the MCU and I said, if you take about 4 or 5 movies out of this 20+ saga, they feel a little cookie cutter. I think that's part of the problem. They took the Tony Stark concept, like, okay, people like quippy dialogue, and made every single protagonist of these movies into quippy characters. And I feel like that's bad because with a lot of the Marvel movies now, I feel like once you see the trailer, you know what the story is going to be. Maybe taking out Shang-Chi and Eternals just because that just dropped. But and I think that that's bad, because I think that people are being conditioned to enjoy those types of movies. Because if you take the MCU out of the theaters, there's not really many big franchises left. Movie theaters.
They are the comic book movies are the new blockbusters. You aren't going to get movies like back in the day, like Indiana Jones or Jaws or the big like Independence Day. And if you are going to get one of those movies, it's just a sequel from what was already made before. Like Indiana Jones 5 will be coming out.
Yeah.
We'll see another form of something, a sequel to this. It'll be a blockbuster. So I think the age of original blockbusters is dead.
Yeah.
And if it's not dead, it's definitely on a ventilator on life support, because the comic book movies have really taken it over. But as far as where the MCU goes and what they do, I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the stories per se.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll do fine, and they'll get people to gravitate towards it. But I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of haters going, oh, it wasn't like the first 10 years, the first 11 years. And you're like, God. And I think that's the problem we have collectively with people who go to the movies. We hold on to things with dear life.
Mm-hmm.
That why are we holding on to this? Like things come,
I think
things
the reason
go.
The reason that could happen is because I think now is the time to play with the formula. Okay, you've lost a lot of the big stars you made. Okay, so Chris Evans is gone. Not Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. is gone. Scarlett Johansson's come back for one movie, but unless they do something with the ending, she's pretty much gone.
Surprise.
Unless she comes back, at the end they show her waking up and the Soul Stones return. You never know. They've lost a lot of star power, and this is the time to experiment. Okay, let's see if we can do something new. Let's see if we can play with the formula a little bit. And I think that's why, people always ask, like, why do people like the Snyder movies? They're not as well made as Marvel movies, at least by popular consensus. But the guy's trying to do something different with these characters. He's trying to experiment. We'll say what we will about Man of Steel, BVS, and the Snyder Cut. 3 very different movies. There's no formula to the first one that was also in the second one, that was also in the third one. 3 very different movies. And I feel like Marvel shies away from doing that. If you take the Russo brothers out of the MCU, you really don't have anything phenomenal. Maybe the first Iron Man. Right. Something that's like, wow, groundbreaking. And I think Marvel feels a little too comfortable that, hey, we're at top of the mountain right now. We don't need to really try. We don't need to do another Civil War or a Winter Soldier or even, an Infinity War where we're like, hey, we're going to connect 20 movies and assume the audience knows what's going on.
That was going to be my question. But do you guys think it was necessary 22 movies to get where we were at Endgame?
Yes.
Or you did all 22 movies?
Yes, absolutely yes. The weight of that scene, the portal scene, when everybody comes out. Mm-hmm. Do you remember back in the day, maybe not for our old young buddy Austin here, but Jack, do you remember back in the day, Marvel came out with this thing? I don't know how old you are, Jack, but you look wise and distinguished.
Yes, thank you.
Back in the day, they had this giant poster of every single Marvel person ever made.
Oh, yeah.
I always saw it in the Blockbuster that was always down from my street.
Yeah.
I always went there Tuesdays and Thursdays and rent movies. I always saw that big thing. I was like, oh, God, wouldn't it be great to have a movie where all of these guys are in it in some capacity? And in Endgame, we got close to that. We got close to having every single member of the MCU in one setting ready to go. I don't think you could have that much like that. That is a groundbreaking scene, not just in like Marvel, like comic book movies, but like it brings everything together. So 22 films. I don't see the problem with it. There's a lot of
and audiences went along with the ride. I remember, there were the fans who obviously watched it as it came out, but towards Infinity War, I met a lot of people weren't in the MCU like, wait, how do I watch this? I'm like, okay, these are the movies you want to watch. It's a lot of movies. I said, just start. Just start. Right. And they would get through it. They would enjoy it. They would watch it with their kids. They'd be like, oh, wow, this is really good. They had never read a comic book in their life, but they realized something was coming with Infinity War that they have to see. Like, this is not something you want to skip out on. It's like Star Wars was in 1977. You have to see it. Or The Exorcist in 72 is like something you got to go see. And you kind of want to go in there with everything. Impact. Yeah.
That's the cultural impact of what this entity has done. So, yes, I think it's necessary to have all 22 movies. Now, are all 22 movies good?
No.
Right.
No, not all 22 movies are good. But
however, Marvel stuck with it.
but they lend credence to, like, a lot of people say Thor the Dark World is probably in their lowest of lows as far as see Alan Silvestri's son said he said Captain Marvel is garbage. Totally agree. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that movie was like, nah. And it was like, hey, we got to make sure that girls are in this. And we're like, we already know there's so many great women that are already in the MCU that like kick so much butt. Like, we get it. And, I sat next to a buddy of mine who has a daughter, and he was like, whoa, that's really cool. And I when I was like the montage where she's getting up and they flash back to all the parts where she's getting up and like dusting herself off. I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, meh. But when you sit next to somebody who's a dad of a little girl and he goes, oh, that's really cool. That's the kind of stuff. See, we get so inundated on what's good and what's not good. Yeah. The bottom line is this. It's all subjective. It's all subjective. You can't say that this movie is better than this movie. To you, it might be, and to a collective people, it might be. But in general, that's just not how it works. Like, God, the Snyderverse release the Snyder Cut, folks, was the perfect example. I mean, I heard so many times about it. that were still supporting the Snyderverse movie, and I'm like, I'm so confused. So do you like this one, but you want the Snyder cut version?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
that first
understand.
movie was very much a Marvel movie because they got Joss Whedon to make it. I know a lot of people really liked that first movie. They were like, dude, I liked it. It was fun. It was silly and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But it didn't, again, it felt like a Marvel movie. Like,
but
hey,
that's true. They made a switch once they found out, this wasn't Snyder's version,
But that's my point. A lot of people who were like all about DC and didn't like Marvel were like, that was a good Justice League movie. And then everyone was like, Snyder Cut's coming out. We have a Snyder Cut. And they're like, oh, release that. That'll be good too. So it's just like, it's just hating Marvel to hate Marvel's sake, which I don't think
that's stupid.
Necessary in this. And there was a lot of people. I mean, there was one tweet that I sent out there a while back ago, and I got maybe 900 people to reply to it, and they were like, Austin remembers. I was like,
I loved it.
Lord.
What was the tweet?
I felt like it was along the lines of like, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong in the tweet. I said, if you're putting your faith in 2017 Justice League, if you're holding on to that same faith that's going to get you to the Snyderverse, you're holding on to the wrong thing. It was something in that context of like, if you think you like the 2017 version, you're definitely not going to like the Snyder Cut version. Mm-hmm. And technically I was right, and technically I was wrong. I had said that Snyder wasn't going to make a good Justice League movie, and I was dead wrong. Like I couldn't believe how wrong I was, and I also didn't know a lot of things going into it about the behind the scenes stuff, about how there was so much turmoil. I knew about his daughter, but the other things that happened, I had no idea about, and that came to light, and it kind of made me go, okay. But dude, people went after me. You're an idiot. You probably like Marvel. There were people saying that, like, I was saying that The Dark Knight was the greatest comic book movie ever made. Again, subjective, and they were like, no. They were like, Ben Affleck's one movie was better than the whole Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh, nah, see, that is
that's just
because Ben Affleck, I do like him better.
See, there's subjectivity and there's logic at this point, and then
dude, hundreds of people told me how crazy I was that the Dark Knight trilogy was not as good as Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel as like a thing. I was like,
I learned that recently too.
I don't know, man. You watch the Dark Knight, like. It came out in 2008. Dude, we never saw anything.
That movie was a milestone. That movie treated comic books as a work of art, and I don't just mean visually. There's some really tight storytelling in there, and it's another movie that doesn't give you the answers. I mean, to this day, we're trying to figure out who the Joker was, and the answer is you're not supposed to know. That's to be. You can guess, you can hypothesize. There's clues over here.
Fan theories out there. Yeah, there's great fan theories about him being a soldier with PTSD.
Yeah.
And all these great things. That's what art is for. It's subjective. It's to realize your own truth in something. So
exactly. But I say you can't really do that with Marvel. Like, you can't take a Marvel movie and break it down or analyze it. It's not meant to be broken down or analyzed. BVS, that was a movie when it first came out. I didn't like it. It took me about a few years to kind of go back and watch, the Ultimate Edition and kind of pick it apart, that Snyder was saying a lot of things. Maybe in Austin, you'll say that it was kind of incoherent in the way it was told, but there is stuff you can go back and break apart. Like, holy crap, there's commentary about religion. There's commentary about this and all this other stuff that we maybe weren't looking for. And I kind of appreciate that, even though it's not as well made as, let's say, your typical Marvel movie. I would like to see Marvel movies do that type of thing where, they make movies that are more intelligent, more adult oriented, and they can still be fun. The Dark Knight was a great experience theatrically. Like, I loved it. People were cheering at certain moments, but like, it was still overall a dark movie. And I think for me, like the MCU, I hope they don't just keep following the same formula they have for the last 10 years. They got to do something different to keep me for the next 10. I mean, I'll be still watching them, but when you experience a high like that, the best thing to do is experiment with your filmmaking. Get some experimental filmmakers who can play around with the formula so each film feels a little bit different and you're not just going on the same ride all over again.
Yeah, and a couple months ago, Donovan and I got to interview Sean O'Connell, who wrote the Snyder Cut book, and he asked Sean like a really, really good question. I actually want to ask you, Don. You asked him. Obviously, I think we know the answer, but what's more of the comparison and how Marvel has treated its characters compared to like some of the people, like how DC has treated these characters? Because these are characters that we really love and grew up with, and we want to see do well. And I think even there's some Marvel situations too that I was, a little, I'm not crazy like about the Ant-Man movies. I wish they would do something a little different with that, right? So on both sides, but how do you feel like these companies have treated, these properties?
There's one difference between DC and Marvel that has the actors fall in love with the characters they have and take on the persona. I think it was James Corden's show where he had, I think Endgame came out and he had, it was Jimmy Kimmel, and he had him go on the Stars tour, and they ended up stopping in a comic book shop, and it was like all the Avengers, and they were in there signing stuff. They were doing a bunch of great things, and like you were like, oh, I wish I was in that comic book shop. I wish I was there to see this. It was just so amazing. Mm-hmm. And then you got like DC side of things, when you see their guys just sort of at press junkets doing their thing, and there's one guy that is in charge of all of Marvel that makes sure that these actors have an understanding of who their characters are and what they mean to people, and that's Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Bar none. We don't have a Kevin Feige in the DCEU. No. You can argue that it's Jeff Johns, but it really is not. You can argue that it's Kevin Amata, and it sure as hell is not him. There's a great anecdote about Hugh Jackman. So when he was doing the first X-Men movie, director Bryan Singer, scumbag, he had banned all comic books from the set. He didn't want any of his actors to read any of the material because he wanted them to come up with their own creative choices for this. Mm-hmm. Kevin Feige thought it was ridiculous. He used to sneak Hugh Jackman comic book stuff. He used to get him like comic books, like, here, take this. And he would read it and he goes, I understood my character so much more now. I understand what I'm supposed to do. I understand. Yeah. And it was all in secret. Kevin Feige is the one who's responsible for making sure that these actors are not just getting a paycheck, but they love their characters.
Yeah.
I go to somewhere like DC, and the only person that I think, two people, there's only two people that I think have such a great passion for their characters, and that is Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and
Gal Gadot. No, okay.
and Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, okay.
And those to me were the two that were like, yes, let's do this. I'm love, dude. To me, Henry Cavill's Superman. He's Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't argue with me that Man of Steel is the greatest Superman movie ever made.
Yeah.
I can't. Every time someone's like, Christopher Reeve's Superman is better.
He's still my favorite. He's still my favorite, but that was a different time. That was in the 70s. It was just...
That's what I'm saying. Yes, your favorite. Yes, he was my favorite for a really long time too. Mm-hmm. And then I saw Henry Cavill and I went, this is like, this reminds me of Grant Morrison. This reminds me of
Morrison. Yes. Yes. I'm always arguing with our friend Justice. Like he's on our pop culture team. He's like, well, Man of Steel wasn't real Superman. I'm like, well, read Grant Morrison. And, I forgot this one story where Superman, it's him talking to a priest who's thinking of like, who's got cancer. And it's
Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, this is like Zack Snyder's Superman. Like it's a great, and it turns out that priest was the same character who Clark meets in Man of Steel. Father, I forgot what the name is. He also does Clark's funeral in BVS, the same character. Yep. But like, I'm like, what I liked what Zach was trying to do is he was trying to, and I'm going to sound cliche because everyone uses this word, deconstruct these characters and take them in the different, because we got the Nolan Batman. We had before that the Tim Burton Batman, at least the good ones, at least.
Right.
And I kind of liked where he's like, what if Batman got pushed to a point where he lost it? And that's something they don't really do with the movies. And I was like, okay, I kind of see that. And I have come to appreciate BVS more and more as time has gone on, even though like it is such a divisive film. And I appreciate in a way that I appreciate more than Marvel movies, even though Marvel movies are better made. Like you mentioned Bryan Singer's movies. I don't know if the MC would make a movie like X-Men 2, where you literally see Wolverine. Remember, it's bloodless, but remember when the special forces scene, mansion scene is like tearing them apart. And of course, they neutered it. But I'm like, even a scene like that, would I see that in the MCU? Or would they nerf Wolverine where he doesn't kill people? You know, like they'll have to, or even the Punisher. Like, I'm like, I don't know if the Punisher is not a good guy.
But you know what? I think Don made a good point in that at the end of the day, I think even Kevin Feige knows, right? Like these are characters that we have to somehow figure out how are we gonna, put them in a place where they know, okay, it's not necessarily Disney.
Yeah.
Like,
but here's the other part. Like there are rumors, I don't know how true this is, that Charlie Cox might be in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like,
I heard
even
Cher and Celine Dion were also in Spider-Man No Way Home.
everyone's in that
Have a
movie
whole
but Tom
duet.
Holland. Everyone is in that movie but Tom Holland. But like, my worry is that the general audiences, not the comic book fans, the general audiences who make up a huge chunk of the viewership for MCU movies, when they see an intense comic book movie, let's say they do a Punisher, which is violent. They do a Daredevil that is gritty. That's showing, Daredevil's not beating up, sky monsters. He's fighting sex traffickers, and drug users and drug dealers, big time drug dealers. And they're going to be like, well, this is not my cup of tea. And Disney's going to be like, oh, crap, we just misfired. It's like, no, you didn't misfire. You just showed them another part of the MCU that fans or the general audiences aren't really used to yet. And you kind of see that with some reaction to some of the Snyder stuff, or even, they're like, oh, this is too intense. The villain is too scary. The villain's supposed to be cheesy,
Do you think that when it comes to Disney releasing anything that's R-rated, they won't use the banner of Disney? They own 20th Century Fox, so it'll be a 20th Century Fox production. If they wanted to go violent, they'll go violent. They just won't put it. It's just not going to be like Disney. You aren't going to see Cinderella's castle before that.
Do they want to tie it into the MCU though? I think that's the tricky part, though.
Yes, it's doable.
Well, technically, the Netflix
totally
shows.
Doable.
Technically, the Netflix shows were supposed to be part of the MCU. Like the first season of Daredevil, they keep referring to the Avengers fight in New York, and
Right.
But then, as the shows went on, it was clear they don't mention the snap, they don't mention Thanos, because the people making the shows had no idea that was supposed to be coming.
Right.
But I don't know. Let me ask you this to kind of pivot on that point. What did you think of when Scorsese said he didn't consider Marvel real cinema? Because at first I was like, dude, what a douche. Why did he say that? But as time has gone on, I'm like, I can see where he was coming from. Maybe it was a place that was a little bit pretentious, but I can kind of see, because we were just talking about you're not going to get any blockbusters that are like Independence Day or, hell, even R-rated ones like The Rock back in the day. You're just not going to see those movies anymore. Right.
Yeah, Scorsese is a genius. He's a master of his craft. He's my favorite director of all time. Mm-hmm. I think to put Thor Ragnarok and Taxi Driver together as being on par with each other is ridiculous. And I think ultimately that was his point. Which fun. So if we look at art, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. Art is, again, subjective. You look at a Monet and you go, my gosh, look how amazing this is. This is so incredible. But then you go look at a painting that's done by, you look at Jim Lee. You look at Jim Lee stuff and you're like, this is beautiful. This is amazing. But in a totally different way that vibes of me and what I love and what I appreciate. I think to say that it's not real cinema is a lie. Yeah. Because it is cinema. It's being made on film, some on digital, some on film, whatever. But they all go in and they look at the dailies. They all have to, find distributors and studios for these movies. Yeah. People go in theaters and sit down and watch them. It is cinema. It's just not. It's not refined cinema. It's not it's not a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon from 1978.
But you mentioned Taxi Driver. Then on the other hand, you have a movie that is very much like Taxi Driver, like The Joker, and it made $1 billion. And I was still waiting for action to show up. Like at some point, there's going to be an action sequence, or no, there's no. That is kind of like the Cabernet from the 1970s or whatever, And I'm like, that's the only $1 billion R-rated movie as of right now. And I'm like, maybe there is a hunger for that type of stuff.
Adult content.
Yeah.
Adult content. Yes, you're totally right.
There is a hunger for that. And I understood what
adult content.
I made an analogy the other day. I said Marvel movies or Marvel content's like a pop song that uses those same 4 or 5 chords that every pop song uses. But they sound
that's
great.
That's a great analogy.
They sound great. You're catchy. Like, oh, I hate rap music, but oh, that's a good beat. I kind of like that. Or
I hate Taylor Swift. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. But people will buy it, but there's nothing memorable about it. Like by next year, you're going to forget about it. And I think about the MCU. People only talk about a handful of films, and it's funny you mentioned Ant-Man, or Austin mentioned Ant-Man. Edgar Wright he wrote and was going to direct it. He was going to do something different with that movie. Because if you look at the Cornetto trilogy, you look at Baby Driver, you look at this new one that's coming out that looks really weird. I forgot what it's called.
One Night in Soho.
Yeah, One Night in Soho.
Oh, can't wait.
And I'm like, could you imagine if he had full reign and made his Ant-Man movie? What that might have been. I mean, he still gets a writer's credit for it, but you know, there was an argument between him and Disney. He's like, I want to do this. I want to. He
wants to do some weird stuff. I'm sure.
Yeah, weird stuff, but something experimental. You know.
Yeah.
And here's the deal.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You sign a contract with a giant corporation.
Yeah.
You don't think at all at any point they're going to have a creative say in what they're doing.
Yeah.
This is their money that you're using.
That's true. That's true.
So if they go, hey,
but his thing,
the direction in which this is going, and he goes, hey, like this is where, and I'm sticking to this, then directors are going to do what they do. They're going to go.
Yeah, but then my question is why hire Edgar Wright and not just get another director who will just do what you want to? You know what I mean? Like, why get someone like Edgar Wright?
Because he brings in eyeballs.
Yeah.
You hear the name Edgar Wright in pre-production, and people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to see this." The psychology game is already being played.
Yeah.
Listen, when someone says it leaked, it didn't leak. They let the leak out.
Yeah.
So you hear that Edgar Wright is doing Ant-Man, dude. Do you remember when that was announced?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, the internet went crazy, and people went, "I'm excited for Ant-Man," and then things happened, things fell off, and there wasn't as much as excitement, but there definitely was more still, just because for the simple fact that Edgar Wright was somehow attached to this, and they somehow saved it with hiring Adam McKay to come on and direct, and Paul Rudd wrote with him, and they've done Anchorman before, and they still kept Edgar Wright's concepts in mind, so. You know, at the end of the day,
like I feel like if Edgar Wright had been allowed to do his thing, Ant-Man could have been to phase 2 what I think Thor Ragnarok was for phase 3. It was a comedy film that was different. It wasn't just a traditional comedy. You have a Taika Waititi, God bless him, a weird mind, but that weird mind created something and made Thor huge.
Yeah, it definitely saved Thor in the franchise, especially going for a more humorous side of things, which is great. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that Thor Ragnarok is the best movie in the MCU, and I gotta be honest, it's hard to argue that logic. I watch it, enjoy it.
Too. And it's funny. I love it. I hear a lot of people that recently, this is another one, kind of like the Dark Knight one. Been hearing a lot of people just like come out and be hating on that movie, and I'm like, how can you not like that movie? That movie is by far and away, I mean, probably next to Guardians, one of the most unique Marvel movies. Yeah, and just the most, you know. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's one of
there are a lot of Thor fans. Like, if you were never read a Thor comic and you were to watch Thor Ragnarok and read a Thor comic, you'd kind of like a shocking, like, whoa, this is not what it's supposed to be.
It's apples and oranges for sure.
And, you know, Thor Dark World is probably the most accurate Thor movie. You know, like it's not a great movie, but that's Thor, you know.
But like, you don't think directors see that, or a filmmaker sees that and go, man, like I'm reading this material and it's a little slower. It's a little more. I just don't know that this is going to be the thing that gets people attracted to this.
Didn't Zack Snyder famously say, "Who wants to see a Thor movie?" Like years ago? I think it was Zack or someone. He was like, "Who wants to see a Thor movie?"
And it was me. I said
it. So I did.
I saw the first trailer and I went, "That's going to be garbage."
Yeah,
that's gonna suck. And then I watched it and I was like, "Oh,
that first Thor movie doesn't get a lot of love." I actually love that first Thor movie. I think it really handled something that could have come off as goofy.
I thought Kenneth Branagh was the perfect pick.
Oh, Kenneth Branagh's great.
Little too many Dutch angles for me, but the movie was pretty good.
But I do think
wasn't my favorite.
I personally like the Shakespearean stuff that Kenneth adds to the Thor character. I do like that type,
especially with Loki. Everyone forgets Loki starts in the first Thor movie. You don't have that Thor movie, you have no Loki.
Right, exactly. So there's and you know, you look at these themes. Yes, the themes of Marvel are very, predictable. Maybe cookie cutter would be more accurate, but a lot of people gravitate towards that, and their demographic gravitates to it, and it's families. Yeah, people are gravitated, especially people who have families or what they consider to be a family. So you guys at Pop Culture you guys are like family, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about this stuff, like, so you see it and you go, "Oh, let's all do this together." Marvel knows what they're doing. They understand what they're doing. Yes, It's not going to be as adult as we would like it at times,
Mm-hmm.
but there will be moments where we're like, ooh, that was scary. It was a little dark. And I think the movie we're going to see that in is Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of
Yeah,
Madness.
because Sam
I think
Raimi is taking it over. Do you think they'll let Sam do his thing, or do you think he'll be?
Well,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting thing too, right? Because Scott Dickerson was supposed to direct
Right,
this
I was
second
just
one.
about to say that.
And
yeah.
he wanted to make it a horror movie, which I was like, ooh, that'd be kind of cool. We haven't
Right.
seen that in the MCU, like a horror movie. But you get someone who was like, nah, we can't scare little kids. You know,
Yeah, right.
I
right.
think
that would have
I
been kind of
think-
cool.
I think they're still going the horror angle with it. I just don't
Okay.
think that
I think
they
Scott probably wanted to do a little much. Scott
Yeah.
wanted to do like
Yeah.
some Sinister type. When Sinister is one of the scariest freaking movies
Something
that I've
like
ever
this.
watched. Right? Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's very appropriate for the Marvel universe.
Why
you know?
not? Why not? I'd love to see it.
I just saw in the comments the Thor 4 just wrapped. It was announced a couple of days ago, and
Yeah.
Homeboy was huge. And it's not for Thor. A lot of people think it's for Thor, but he's playing Hulk Hogan in a movie coming up. That's
Yeah.
why he looks.
Really?
Yeah.
He's
That's
saying
actually
his
pretty interesting
prayers-
casting because it's hard to play someone like Hulk Hogan. I mean, he was known for having these big guns. That was sort of his thing.
24-inch
But it's Python's brother. I have no idea if they were actually 24-inch, but he had big arms, man.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think, like, I've always wondered, like, not that Rotten Tomatoes makes a difference, but so far every movie in the MCU has scored fresh. Do you think the MCU could have a dud in their hands anytime soon if they continue with the same formula? If they don't, I'm not going to say they don't have to become dark or edgy or adult oriented, but they need to play around with it in the way they did with Winter Soldier and Civil War.
I think if anything is a dud, I think that I personally really liked WandaVision.
Okay.
I thought it was creative. Definitely not my favorite. I think so far and I think if it was released in a different order because of COVID and everything happened, they re-released everything. I think it could have been much better for a lot of people. But I do think that ultimately WandaVision was kind of a dud for a lot of people. And again,
It was for me, yeah.
I don't know if it's because of the actors going in press junkets saying there's going to be cameos that you've seen in this that we've never worked with before. I think that had a lot to do with it as well. But those first 3 episodes, if you talk to anyone, they'll tell you those first 3 episodes were dog trash.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, that's what I felt like, and I talked
And a lot
about
of people
this
said that.
in my first episode. I felt like there was you basically knew what the story was going to be the second you saw. In hindsight, when you saw that first trailer, you kind of knew what the story was going to be, and we're just
Right, what
waiting
they're
for the
going for.
characters to get to where we already are, and that's not always a good thing, when we already. And then I had a whole bunch of other issues with Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I felt like it was Marvel kind of saying like, hey, we can put these characters in any scenario you want, and people will watch it, and it's true, and that's where I'm kind of scared. Where like you're at the top and you lose the edge, you lose the edge. You're like, okay. And I'm not saying they're going to go out and put out good stuff. I just think they're going to just do more pop songs.
well,
At some point, the audience is going to be like, hey, remember that Joker movie? I'd never seen it. I'd like to see more like that. Or even Logan, like stuff that I didn't think I would like in a comic book movie.
yeah.
I think, but if you're talking about duds, I think the movie that's going to be a dud is going to be Black Widow.
I'm going to
really?
be honest with you. I'm not too
Yeah,
excited
really?
about
I do.
that.
I think it's going to
don't
be
think
Shang-Chi.
No, I think Shang-Chi's going to be really cool. I think we're going to get a lot of really cool stunts, a lot of good fighting. It's father-son stuff, so
Yeah.
people love that. But I think that Black Widow is going to be the dud just because of how many times it's been pushed back.
Yeah.
Where Black Widow is currently in. See, someone, even Adam said it's going to get a 59%. Mark my words. I'm going to come find you, Adam.
He's a patron, yeah. He lives in LA. You're in the West, right? He's in LA.
I'm on the West. I'm coming, baby.
Yeah.
I'd have to say I'm with Adam on this one. I even think it might be lower than that. I think it might be 50.
Yeah.
I don't think that
That
Black
would
Widow is
be
going to be.
shocking.
But we haven't seen an MCU movie in theaters in a really long time, so there might be a lot of buzz behind that. There might be a lot of people going, "It was so good," and it might be just a collective.
But I feel like that's with
consciousness of
every
people
Marvel
going,
movie. Like even I get pulled into it. Like I'll see like a Thor: The Dark World. I'm like, oh my god, that was so great. And like a month later, I'm like, no, it wasn't.
I think,
you get pulled into the hype.
the art form of trailer making is even better than the movie making today. I mean, I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of a movie I saw recently, and I watched the trailer, and the trailer was better than the movie. It was Rise of Skywalker. I was like, dude, it got me all emotional. Dude, I started crying when I was watching the trailer, and then I watched the movie. I was like, this movie sucks.
Sucked. Horrible.
But that's another show for another day.
Yeah, that's another show for another day. But you know, I love having this conversation because then people say you're MCU hating or whatever, and I'm like, no, I love the MCU. It's just that I still want it to get better. And I'll be you mentioned Black Widow. I'll be honest with you, even when the first trailer dropped before the pandemic started, I was just like,
wasn't too excited.
It's like, okay, the action looks cool. Something's not clicking with me. I don't know what it is. It just feels.
Well, it's because we're going backwards. We just spent so much time, 22 movies getting to Endgame, and now we're going to head back.
I always felt like Black Widow was a decision. Like when they announced Wonder Woman, they're like, oh, crap, we need a woman hero. And they're already doing Captain Marvel. Fine, give ScarJo a movie. Like it might have been an afterthought. And I don't know.
I'll say Black Widow gets in the 70s just because of the whole. I don't think Rotten Tomatoes can give Marvel a bad review.
But like, do you think that's part of it, though? Like, let me ask you this.
I definitely think there's something between Rotten and Marvel that a Marvel movie can't.
Because, like,
that's some QAnon stuff right there. I don't think it's possible.
I do think that just like the audiences, the critics are conditioned for what a comic book movie should be. Because critics, they're not necessarily, like, I'm talking about the professional critics, right? The ones who went to Yale and Harvard and you know, those types, you know, they're conditioned just like audiences on what a comic book movie should be. You know, this you can go back to, you know, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, like trashing Batman Returns. They're like, oh, it was too dark. Gotham City was too dark. The Penguin was too dark. Remember the Adam West stuff? Like, you know, this was back in 92.
Because they grew up with Adam West. They grew up with Bob Kane's original stuff with Boom Bang Pow and holy jumping Jack Flash, Batman. Like, you know, they grew up with that. So when they see Batman Returns, they go, what?
Yeah.
What is going on? Why
and
is
I think in that same vein, the critics, like, you know, Rotten Tomatoes, you have the top critics, and then you have like all the other critics, like, you know, us, you know, well, maybe not us. Maybe one of these days, maybe we will be part of those critics. But like, they're just as conditioned because they're not into this stuff as we are. They see an entertaining movie, safe, and they're like, okay, yeah, good, go ahead. But like, I was a little bit surprised. You said you enjoyed the Snyder cut, right? Or you liked it?
Yeah,
I was shocked at the even though it scored positive reviews, I was shocked that it was like at 71, 72. I thought I should have been a little bit higher. I'm not saying it should have gotten like Endgame reviews or even Infinity War reviews, but I was a little bit surprised that critics that it was kind of 70-30. I thought it would have been a little bit higher. I don't know. I'm not saying again.
We place too much of our faith in Rotten Tomatoes and what critics are saying or whatever, and we forget some. I think we forget some. And I'm old school. When it comes to this stuff, and I try and stay away from critic board, and especially when getting into arguments with people. I even tried it recently with someone. I was like, "Look at the Rotten Tomatoes score," and they're like, "That doesn't mean anything." I mean, it's a lot like when you know you go on you mention an article on the news or something. And you're like, "Oh, I got this thing." They're like, "Where'd you get it from?" And you can be like, I got it from Fox News, or I got it from CNN. And you're like, oh, you got it from one of them, huh? Cool.
Exactly. Like,
I can't please it. You just can't please everybody.
To be fair, and I will say this: as a fan of the Snyderverse, we all said, Rotten Tomatoes sucks as a BVS score, but if Zack Snyder's Justice League had scored 95%, we'd be like, woo! You put the party lights on, 95%, baby, take that, Marvel. Like, you know, we would have done that.
It's exactly. I mean, it's just crazy, and you know, I think we forget, like, going to the movies and watching a movie. It should be a wonderful experience for everybody to be involved with, and at the end of the day, you'll have your discussions, you will have your talks. I really hate the hey, let's see what Rotten Tomatoes says. Then they're the deciding factor. In which, no, you know what the deciding factor is? Money.
Donovan, do you remember back in the day before Rotten Tomatoes, you would just go to the video store and just go to the new releases? Oh, Denzel's in this movie, and you just grabbed it. You didn't look it up now.
I was alive when Blockbuster was around, guys. Come on, I'm not that young.
You didn't go online and check reviews. You're like, oh, this movie's got Steven Seagal in it. You know, back when he was a thing.
Yeah, or like back in the day had the Blockbuster employees picks.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
People who are behind the counter, you go, oh, interesting. You picked that, and you go, oh, how was this? And I noticed Max really liked this one. I want to go check this out. And you watch Max, I like it. It created a nice, friendly conversation. But in the world we live in today, it's just not how it works anymore. And it's sad because you can't. Like, I love disagreeing with people, and I love when people get disagree with me because I learn something about someone. I learn something about the way people think, the way people are. I think it's a beautiful thing when you're proven wrong, and two, you disagree with somebody. It's all about how you respond. And right now,
exactly,
if you're not on my team, then you're not allowed to be on my team. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, you can't be on my team. But we live in such a polarized world with everything nowadays. So
Donovan, I want your opinion on it. Prakash asked a question. Oh, and it was like, who do you think? Who do you think the next big baddie should be? So Thanos was phase 1, I guess you could say, the Infinity Saga. Phase 4 moving forward, because you figure the X-Men are going to come at some point. Who do you think should be the next big baddie? Should it be a mutant? Should it be Dr. Doom, Galactus?
You need two. You need one here on Earth at all times. What we got in the first few phases was Loki.
Yeah.
Loki was the guy that connected everything. He was still bad, but he's kind of good, but he's got in and out. For me, that would be Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom would be the guy here on Earth that's causing all the havoc, and he's the one that's bringing in the Celestials. He's the one that's going to bring in the next big bad, which I believe to be Galactus. I think Galactus would be the guy because he is a Celestial. He's much more powerful than Thanos. And I think maybe we'll get something into that, the Eternals. Not too sure. Yeah. But if I had to put my money on it, I'd probably say that Galactus would be the next ultimate big bad, and that Dr. Doom should be the interweaving bad guy between all properties. But Loki's also still around.
Loki. And bad Loki. We have bad Loki. The Loki in Loki is not the Loki who was in Thor Ragnarok, who kind of had a change of heart. Yeah. This is the Loki from the first Avengers, who's a bad guy.
He's got a bee in his bonnet.
How do you guys feel? You mentioned Dr. Doom. Now that Disney acquired Fox, how would you like a reimagining of not Charles Xavier, of Magneto in the MCU? Because he's on Earth. He hates humans. He's kind of like a fascist. I think that'd be kind of cool. I think he could just not just necessarily be an X-Men villain, just be an overall villain. And what have you thought of the idea of them changing the race of originally, Magneto was a Holocaust survivor. Now we're pushing close to 80 years since the Holocaust. We're at 70 now, into maybe more of a civil rights thing, kind of like MLK or Martin Luther King, which is what they were kind of based off of, supposedly. Charles, how would you feel if they did that approach, change the Holocaust thing just because of the time frame? Because now you're looking at 80 years. Even if he was a baby, Magneto was a baby during that, he'd be 80. It worked in 2000 because, and by the way, Ian McKellen was too young for that era. Like Ian McKellen was born in 1940.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think you would have to, if you were going to replay it, you would have to do like a not something that was Germany Holocaust, but something that was a little more recent. So you would do something like the Armenian genocide.
Ooh, my man. Or even like Rwanda, like the Hutus and the Tutsis, like something like that. Or Somalia, I don't know, like something like that. That could work. Ooh, yeah.
You bring in something like that. I think the Holocaust.
What was the one that happened in the 90s during the Clinton years? The ethnic cleansing. What was that? Was that Bosnia, Kosovo?
It was Kosovo.
Kosovo, yeah. You could do something like that and take that event and create a new Magneto, like same idea, but now just like they took the Punisher origin, it was always Vietnam, but then at some point, like the Punisher is pushing 65, you got to make it Desert Storm. Now you got to make it the new Gulf War,
Exactly.
Oh man, this is guys, keep throwing in the questions. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, we're loving
it. So I think something like that. And of course, the Holocaust thing, it leads credence, but then you would have to hire an older actor, and there's not going to be, time travel. Tyler brought up a great point here. They could fight multiple versions of Kane. Yeah, see, this is great. So time travel is also a thing that we could possibly use for this as well. I always loved the theme of the Holocaust being the thing because he represented a people who was taken away because they were different So
Yeah.
it had a double entendre. You saw it happening at both worlds for him.
The only other thing I can think they can do is that they played around with this in the Fox franchise, is that mutants age differently. So maybe Magneto is 80, but he maybe looks 50.
Yeah,
because they did that with Charles
like
Xavier, he
Right.
that made mutants age a little bit slower, because even with the prequel films, they're fighting in the 60s. Mystique is in the 60s, or the 70s fighting Nixon, yet she looks like Rebecca Romaine in 2000. It's like, all right, maybe they age differently. There's a
I think the only way you get the X-Men here to kind of stick with the original timeline of things from like with the Holocaust and where they came from, what they did, how they went about it. I think the only way to do it is if you pluck them out of their timeline and their universe and you bring it over to us.
Adam, thank you.
Our timeline. Oh, Adam, you're the best, bro.
We need Donovan more.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring him back.
You bring him from the X-Men from a different universe. I mean, it's just so possible with this multiverse stuff that you're going to get. There's theories of like the Eternals are they going to be the ones that had created the X mutant gene. I think you just take some mutants from the MC, like from a different universe, you stick it in this one.
So I have a suggestion on how they should introduce the mutants. Tell me what you think. Now, this isn't from the comics. This is just how do you because the mutants, there have been mutants around forever in the Marvel comics. There have always been mutants, but not many. Maybe 1 in 10 million. There's a handful, right? That can be your Logan, your Charles Xavier, your Eric Lensher, and you have not that many mutants, and they've lived secretly. Then, the snap happens, and then a second snap happens. When the second snap happens, it triggers mutations that would not have happened naturally for another 20, 30, 40,000 years of human evolution. And now, instead of having 1 in a million mutants, they're everywhere. There's the guy at the gas station, the lady at the counter at the shop. All of a sudden, now it's become a problem. I'm saying that in air quotes in case anyone's listening. They become now all of a sudden there's whoa, there's way too many of them. And then the mutants who have been living in secret, like Charles Xavier, or like, okay, we got to do something to help these people. So it's not like, oh, you just have the Avengers over here and you have some supervillains. Now every fifth person has some kind of ability, and the whole world panics because the second snap triggered mutations. I was like, that's how they could do it. And that could also explain why we haven't seen the X-Men or, we haven't seen Wolverine in this MCU timeline. That was just an idea I had. I don't know if that would work.
I think that Disney has already planted the seeds that mutants exist, though, from WandaVision, correct?
That's where I thought they were going with that. These witches, I was going to say, what if they're not supernatural witches, but they're mutants? They just don't know it.
Yeah. So she's underneath the thing, caught in the rubble, and she pushes the bomb away, and she pushes her brother away. That was before she was in front of the Infinity Stone and all that stuff.
So there's the Reality Stone triggered.
Enhanced her powers. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think of it that way. You're right. So I'm really curious how they're going to do the X-Men. I'm really Adam, thank you.
I do think that the mutant gene already exists, and I do think that kind of to hang on what you're saying as far as the snaps and all that stuff. I think that is what triggered the mutant gene to go off, and maybe that's what woke up the Eternals, and that's what's gonna do some things that you're like, whoa, what the heck is happening here? And then you've got there's so many different avenues that Marvel is playing with and that is teasing us with. It's a lot like when the Ancient One said that if you take a stone out of its place, whole spit. Dude, we're starting to see it now, and we don't know what it's going to be. I just hope and pray. Oh, dear God, Kevin Feige, our Lord and Savior, please just don't ruin this. Don't ruin this, man. Please don't.
I have one concern I was going to ask you about. Do you feel like this new upcoming Spider-Man movie is going to be overstuffed, overdone, or do you think people are just losing their minds like WandaVision and going off on their own thing? Or what do you think? How do you feel about all of that, the Spider-Man stuff?
I say the closer Spider-Man keeps everything to the chest, the better the movie will be for people. Don't try and tease us with this person might be in it, this person might not be in it. We got to stop. We got to stop holding on to Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Willem Dafoe, all this stuff. Yes, it's possible that it's going to happen. Great. That's going to be cool. But what's even more important is we're getting another great Spider-Man movie. And in my opinion, the greatest Spider-Man we've ever seen.
Yep. Agreed. And Austin
Sorry.
agrees with you also.
My bad.
Austin,
I apologize.
Wire's the best.
No, I
Austin
think
likes
Andrew is the best.
Austin likes his Spider-Man to be pushing 30, playing high school students.
Like I'm hot
Austin
with the
likes his
hair
Peter
and the
Parker. Yeah,
flip
Austin likes his Peter Parker to be cool and not a nerd, right?
Yeah, it's true.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
so I think Spider-Man has the potential to be crowded with a lot of things. Billy, thanks for joining. We appreciate you, buddy. There's going to be a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff in there, but I think if they hold everything close to the chest and they make sure that it's nice and good, and one of the Spider-Mans, if all three of them are in them, one of them's got to die. And one of them
Dude, I
has
want
to
the
die.
Japanese guy from the 70s, Spider-Man. Remember that one?
Yeah,
Get him too.
do it.
Get him too.
Get him in there. No, but I think out of the big three that we've been used to, Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield's the best. He's the most realistic.
I like that first one. I like that first Amazing
Oh,
Spider-Man.
Andrew's back. Andrew is our resident Spider-Man lover.
Spider-Man talk?
Yeah. Look what you're missing on Jivin' with Jack, Andrew. He left.
See what happens when you leave?
I think one of the main three Spider-Men have to die.
Okay.
It has to be in the beginning of the movie or somewhere close to the first act, at the end of the first act of the movie. We see like loss, like true loss happen from Peter Parker who looks at another Peter Parker who is more distinguished, more refined, understands what it means about power and responsibility. And we haven't really seen Tom Holland take on with great power comes great responsibility. We've seen with great power comes great tasks for you to do, not necessarily responsibility. And we've seen him come to light in that way, but we haven't seen the him and Uncle Ben moment that has been like, wow, that's great. And we may get a flashback, and we may see Uncle Ben in this movie, which what I would love to see. I would love to see a tiny bit of origins for the.
I talked about this on Tuesday that, I always love Spider-Man 2 because it showed, especially how in the comics, sometimes the weight on Peter's shoulders is too much, and he's a kid. And I'm not just talking about fighting bad guys. It's having a love life. It's having classes. Like Spider-Man 2 did that well. He's failing his classes. He sucks as a delivery boy. His own aunt won't talk to him because she realized, like that's in the comics. It can get really heavy. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen that in the first two MCU ones. I think this has to be the one where there's a moment, that moment where Tobey Maguire throws away his suit. That happened in the comics. He throws it away. He's like, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. I'd like to see that in the MCU. I'd like to see Tom Holland push to that level.
Right. For me personally, I think there's a lack of emotion with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like, he's cool. He does things fine and all, but there's nothing that, like, I gave it this plane scene from Homecoming where he's like lifting the plane and you're supposed to be like, yeah, come on. I couldn't care less. I wanted it to fall on top of him.
Folks, to clarify, this is coming from someone who thinks The Last Jedi was a masterpiece. So just, give it
context. It's a masterpiece, man. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Austin. I understand, and that's your opinion, man. You're definitely entitled to your opinion.
I was about to make a very off-color joke, and I was like, God, that might not be about Austin.
I'll leave it at that. I mean, you're a loser.
I love it.
You're a loser. Austin, you're the worst.
Let me tell you something. This guy is a loser, okay? That scene is a tremendous scene in which
I love that scene.
And let me tell you something. If that were me, I could have done it twice over. You put the plane and the entire building on me. We gotta do another episode
where all of us are wearing like Trump wigs and just talk like that for the whole thing. Like.
I'm dead. I love that.
Oh my God.
I would have done it twice over.
It's a tremendous movie. Some people say my movie was the greatest movie of all time. Up there with Citizen Kane. They say that I'm the next Orson Welles. Of course, I'm not as fat as he is. I'm not fat at all.
Dude, that's great. That's spooky. That's really good.
Yeah, he was around a lot. Had a lot to watch.
Yeah.
He wouldn't go away. But no, Spider-Man.
Yes.
Spider-Man. In New York, where I'm from. Yeah, I think that this movie's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We've heard Tom Holland say that this is the most ambitious comic book movie he's ever seen
Yeah.
read.
And he was an Endgame.
He was an Endgame.
Yeah, dude. So that should tell you something, and I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think if people go in having a good time, knowing that we're going to get possibly all three of our Spider-Mans that we've ever seen in film before, let's just be grateful we get to see that. I mean, I always tell people when we see a trailer or something like that, they say, "Man, what a time to be alive!" Because I tell you what, when I was a kid, all I wanted were these movies. And when that first Spider-Man came out in 2003 or 2001 or whatever it was, 2002, I was close. I was 13 years old, and I had just stopped reading the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes, same thing happened to me.
And I was like, oh, I can't wait for them to make a movie about this. And then sure as hell, a year later, it was around, and I was like, ah!
Do you guys remember,
so
Donovan, if you were blessed enough to happen to have seen the first teaser trailer for Spider-Man, which featured the Twin Towers, and they had to remove it immediately because 9/11 happened like a month later. But they banned that trailer. Now it's available. But like you see, like bank robbers take a skyscraper. They get to the top. They take off in a helicopter. The helicopter stops, and you don't see what's happening. It's like flying backwards, and it's caught in a web between the two towers, the north and south World Trade.
It's so good.
It's such a good teaser. Wow.
If you guys haven't seen it, go out and check it out. I'm sure it's on YouTube or somewhere.
Yeah, they've released it officially now. But it was so hard. You had to go on like piracy websites to find it. Like it was just so forbidden because of 9/11.
I remember seeing it in theaters.
Yep.
Like sitting down in theaters and seeing it and going, "Oh, this is going to be so amazing." And my brother and I were so hyped on it. Like it was great.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would love to show the trailer, but ever since we got monetized, anytime we play any music for like 3 seconds, like YouTube comes at us, it's like we're taking your money.
Right.
Yeah,
and that song, that trailer has that song. I wanna take you on a roller coaster.
Oh my gosh!
I'm hearing the trailer right now after 18 years. I
remember that.
Look up Samuel. Look up Spider-Man 2002 teaser World Trade Center. Usually those words will like bring it up. But like it was hard to find. But see, Spider-Man 2, I love that film.
I mean, I do also have like this part theory that if these guys if Spider-Man, maybe the two of them don't show up here, they might show up in Multiverse of Madness just because of Sam Raimi and his involvement. You know, I would think of all the people, right, to get Tobey Maguire, who's been in a recluse since The Great Gatsby came out 5 or 6 years ago, you know, like who's going to be the guy that made those 3 massively successful movies with him, you know? So I think that would be cool to see him, even if he's not there, to see him in.
I mean, Spider-Man was the first mega comic book blockbuster since the 1989 Batman film. Like, X-Men 1 and 2 were successful, but we're talking about like big blockbusters, like breaking records. You know, that first Spider-Man, when that came out, it made like a ton of money the first week, and everyone's like, "What's going on?"
It was bananas, dude. It was hysteria. Spider-Man everywhere. There was kids who had never read
Andrew Caselli. Andrew Caselli, you're what's that? The picture? What's that thing called? Avatar.
Yeah.
That's Spider-Man from that trailer because you see the World Trade Center in his eyes. Look at his right eye. That was they have to cut that out too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just picked that up.
No, it's all good. What was I saying?
I'm so sorry. I just saw that. I was like,
I think you were about to. Yep.
Anyway, it's gonna. Back in the day, it was such a big hit. It was so like kids who were saying that. They were like, "Oh, Spider-Man's cool." Then they were like, "He's my favorite superhero of all time." I was like, "Well, that's cool. That's awesome. That's great, man." But you know, it was like it was back in the 2003. The psychology? I can't talk right now. It was everybody's collective conscious about how cool is this. We hope to see something like that again. It was really like the benchmark and the foundation in which comic book movies were made after that. A lot of fun, lighthearted. All this stuff.
Yeah, I loved it.
I agree.
Oh my God, Donovan, you have been here for almost an hour, and I love it. This was we weren't sure like it's gonna be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because sometimes I'm never sure about the guest. Sometimes we've had guests.
Let him go.
Yeah, let him go. Oh my God,
let him go, people.
Folks, listen, we got to come up with a segment. I would like to have you. So we're trying out different things. We have a segment where we have 2 girls who are into like the gossip stuff, kind of explain to nerds why people are into the Kardashians stuff.
We're trying to watch the Kardashians, and it was Do
the Trump one more time.
See, yeah.
See, now you got to try
when
it.
when it just comes naturally, man, it's just too good. It's just,
Blade. I forgot about Blade. You know what? When Blade came out, a lot of people didn't know it was a Marvel property. It didn't have the Marvel logo at the beginning. The first one, it didn't, maybe if you watched the credits, it said, based on the Marvel, but like, do the Trump. They want to see the Trump, Donovan, because you do the best Trump.
Let me tell you something about Blade. Okay. Blade was a good movie. It was a tremendous movie because I produced it. It was I'm into vampires. I wanted to recast Blade. I think it needed a nice Anglo-Saxon to be Blade. But the studio disagreed. They wanted to go with more accurate, and I didn't believe it was that accurate. There was fake news. Yeah.
That's great.
Oh man, that is too good. Dude.
Oh,
that is too good. And I've seen this. This guy's just one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life.
What I was gonna say is I'd like to have Donovan come on every maybe other week or so when we have some news like this drop and just talk to us like this. And we'll have to come up with another name. So we have Jivin with Jack, we have Flossing with Austin, and something that rhymes with Donovan.
Not much,
yeah.
Not much.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, man, we love having you. I wanted to take a second, guys. Make sure everybody in the chat today, Donovan is going to be live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's
9 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Sorry, whoa.
Yeah, 9 o'clock on the East Coast.
Yep.
He's going to be live with his boys Into the West. And I wanted to congratulations, man. You guys did it. You did it. You reached 200.
Yes, we got 200 subscribers. I said this in a post. People are like, "Oh, 200 is not that much." I go, in this world, in the YouTube world, to get at least 100 people to watch your show.
Dude, we're still trying to get to 2,000. We're
that's what I'm saying. Like, dude, it's tough. It takes a lot of social media. It takes a lot of how do we get people on? How do we do this? So please, guys, there are artists out there. There are people like us who really love these stories and we love talking about it. We know you guys love listening to it too. I would say subscribe to this channel. Get the notifications for pop culture. And when you're done doing that, head on over to Into the West Comics and check us out. Tonight, we're going to be live 6 p.m. from our beautiful studio here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This week, we're going to be talking about predictions for the Loki series. We're going to have a new segment for the show called Bucket List. So that's where we pick out a movie, series, or comic book that we finally going to have to watch or read that we haven't before, but we're going to get on it to do that. And we'll have a couple of those. We'll obviously get on to new news and then Marvel Comics news. And then we're also having a drawing today for our 200 subscribers. We're doing a drawing. And in that drawing, if you win, you get to come see Black Widow with us in theaters. And you get I believe you get some merch and some other cool stuff with us. So we're doing that drawing tonight. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Frank, myself, Paul, and Sonny, check it out. Yes, you can check it out afterwards. An hour after the show premieres, it is on there. The Bomb.
How about that name?
The Bomb with Dawn.
Dude, we're going to get flagged by the FBI. They're going to be like, they said bomb. Two Middle Eastern guys, vaguely Middle Eastern guys.
Dropping Dawn bombs.
There we go.
Oh, I love that. Dropping Dawn bombs.
There you go. Yeah. Make it a segment. We'll have you. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Thanks. Yeah, so that's what we're doing tonight. So come check us out. And please, guys, this is such a great show that we're on right now.
Yeah,
please watch this stuff. Share it with people. Go on Twitter. Go on Instagram. Go on Snapchat. I don't know if that's still a thing. You can go there. Go blast this stuff out here. We are people who are passionate about these stories, about these movies, and we want to hear from you guys, and we want you guys to get all the news and all the information that you can. So please join us on our shows and let's make this happen, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We love it. Don, super. Thank you so much, man.
It was an honor. Thank you. Thank you.
I had a blast.
Jack.
Thank you. Thank you. Ooh.
All righty. Jack, do we have anything else, or is that?
Oh yeah, we got plenty of stuff. I just got to fix this real here.
We're still going, baby.
Yeah, we're still going. We're not done. We still have stuff to talk about. If I can find the template there. Hold on. Where are we? There we go. Thank you. Ty did it for me. I was like, scroll. I have so many goddamn, GD photos up here. Oh my God. All right. So listen, before we do anything else, before we get to our next topic, if you missed it, last night we did a quick dip into the Conjuring universe. So if you're not into the Conjuring universe, that's where we filled you in. In fact, we each got Tyler was able to secure a surprise guest, Enosh from Poindexter Lounge, who is also a pastor, told us a couple of spooky stories, about some weird stuff that he's seen, and that, we all were sharing stories. Tyler was talking about some of the weird stuff he's seen. So we did that because tomorrow morning, early, we are the only podcasters who are going to be live at Showcase Cinema in Dedham. And when I say live at Showcase, I don't mean we're going to be in the parking lot, trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. We are working with Showcase. We've been working with them since Wonder Woman 1984. We did Wonder Woman 1984. What else did we do there, Austin? We did
you guys did Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
More
recently, So what we're doing is basically we're trying to encourage you guys to go back to movie theaters. So in the link in the description, look up Showcase Cinema. This weekend, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It is coming out. Check out our pre-show and our post-show. We'll do a non-spoiler review for those of you who haven't seen it, and then we'll maybe get into spoilers after the fact. But don't worry, we'll let you know. But make sure you support your local theaters. Look in the description below. Type in your area code or your zip code or your longitude and latitudes, and it'll tell you your closest.
Longitude and your latitude.
Yeah,
there you go.
And you'll know where your local Showcase is. If there's no Showcase near you, go to the movie theater. Look, these movies depend on us watching them. We love MCU, we love DC, we love Star Wars. Not all of it, but we love Star Wars. These are only made if we go to the movies and watch them. Yeah, you can sit at home and watch it on TV. The best way to do is go out there. I had a blast last week in A Quiet Place 2. Masks are coming off. It's getting normal. So please make sure you check out our show tomorrow morning. You'll be around 11:30 Eastern time. And then we'll do a post show around 3 p.m., 2:45, depending how long the movie is, but we'll let you know. So folks, please make sure you check it out tomorrow and make sure you go to the movie. All right, we were talking about some DC stuff, and I do want to appreciate. I hope you guys liked Don. It was pretty engaged in the chat comments, everyone
that was a blast, man. I can't love and respect that dude. He's
that was a good call. Now, now on Fridays, not this Friday, but we usually do Nights of the Comics Roundtable, right?
Yes.
Is that involved? That's involved with them, right?
Yes, we also have Paul from over into the West.
He's from them. Okay, all right,
okay. Yeah. So, which by the way, this week, guys.
Sorry about that. Could you hear yourself? Yeah, I pulled out the headphone, and you would be able to hear yourself. Yeah.
But
that was intentional. Week, guys, I did that on purpose.
Right. Obviously, this week, guys, no Comics of the Night Roundtable because we're going to be covering The Conjuring. We're going to be covering The Conjuring 3. I'm super excited. I'm heading out early in the morning to go see it. Yeah. And I can't wait. I was able to catch. I was in and out, unfortunately, yesterday, but I was able to catch in and out. Some of the stuff you guys were talking about, and on last night's Quick Dip. Yeah. And man, it's so interesting to me, right, to hear, people who are like, I don't really believe, right? I don't really believe that, somebody can be possessed, or I don't really believe that, somebody, but, I still enjoy it. I still like it. I said, for me, right, I'm kind of with Poindexter Lounge, and I actually reached out to him. We'll be having him on soon, hopefully, too, to kind of get deeper into this type of
pop
subject
culture. We could start with horror and pop culture and real stories. And
yeah.
He's a pastor. He said he's seen some stuff.
And I've had the opportunity to be in the room of some exorcisms, to be around like some of these things.
That explains why you liked The Last Jedi, because the demon jumped in you.
Does that mean maybe that's what it was? No, I think it's just that's the road needs to be exercised. No, I'm kidding. With the red lights, there you go. I like that.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's, for me personally, right, the whole point of these movies, right, and when people make these movies about the supernatural, and we're dealing with things like possession or The Exorcist or those types of things. For me, I'm not. So I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen the two Conjuring movies. They don't scare me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like
because you have the devil in you. That's why.
Right. Exactly. No, and it's because I know that whatever it is that they're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
In their demonic, spiritual, whatever, I have no fear of, because I just believe in a higher authority and a higher power.
Yeah.
So with
Tough
that,
talk coming from a Protestant. No, I'm just joking.
right, yeah. So so with that, right, this is probably the one that I'm most excited for, right? Again, and I was kind of listening to you guys too. How true are these stories, right? How true? How much are they? And yes, there's some cinematic effect, of course, but I think people would be really surprised, right? To hear, if you listen to people like Ed and Lorraine, very genuine older people. They're not. I think Enosh kind of mentioned, they're not some Joel Osteen type, doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So this one I think is not only exciting, right? Because I think it's really going to delve into this true story, and this is a true story. They make mention of this in the trailer. I love this line. For years we have established, right, that there's a God in the courtroom. We swear on it. I think it's time we establish the existence of the devil, and I think that's 100%. I think that's just accurate. I very much look forward to seeing what they do with it. I know it's based off of a true story, and obviously, these guys, Ed and Lorraine, had so much of a pop culture effect. It led, even into our laws and our system, how we can somebody claim possession, or are they just crazy?
Yeah.
I always found it interesting. I was mentioned last night too. It's easier to claim insanity, right? It's easier to prove somebody is insane than to go, no, they're possessed. So you have to really, really, think about it and use some logic that, isn't just of the norm, right? It's a very special circumstance. And so I'm excited to see what they do for sure.
We have a few more topics to get into, but you know what? I feel we could end it right here. How do you feel? Do you guys want to stick around? I think what do you think? You're good? We're staying on. We're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live. All right, fine. Speaking of DCEU.
Hey, shut up.
Sorry.
I know. I didn't realize I was
like, might as well do the transition. Again, I'm the only person on the team who cares about this because I want Batfleck, and we can only have Batfleck if Ben Affleck is happy. But more evidence has emerged.
Here we go.
That, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez are together. They're happy. They're in love. I want them to be happy because I want Ben Affleck to be happy because when he's happy, he'll do Batman.
And I want like your little gossip section of the Jivin.
Oh yeah, that's a little gossip section.
Who's dating who? Who's gonna be?
If she was dating anyone else, I wouldn't care. But it looks like it's good. I want Ben to be happy. I don't want him to be any more. New trailer of the Ice Road. No, I did not.
I saw it a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Sonny, welcome. Thank you.
I feel like you've seen one Liam Neeson movie. You've seen all the Liam Neeson movies.
Yeah. But apparently, who, like you guys, who doesn't care about Bennifer, Kate Winslet. Apparently, she was asked in an interview, and she's like, "You can't stop reading about Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez." What? No, I've never read about Jennifer in my life. That's kind of weird. She has never heard of J-Lo?
Yeah, man, because she couldn't give two. You really think the girl from Titanic sitting around on entertainment news going, who's somebody with today? Man, she couldn't care less. I'm telling you right now. Yeah. I just think, and I'll be honest with you, it almost kind of upsets me when the media makes a bigger deal of these things. Man, let them have their relationship. Like
I just look. If my bottom line is the Batfleck thing. Because I know Ben was struggling. That's why the reshoots of Justice League
to do with him and Batfleck.
You say it doesn't. You say it doesn't. God, you say it doesn't. Do you remember how bad his experience was with the Justice League?
Oh, so you're telling me if J-Lo would have changed that whole thing? She would have walked in there and been like,
"Yeah,
speak to my man like that. Speak to my Batfleck like that, Joss Whedon. You leave him alone."
Doesn't sound like that. That is just that's just offensive. But like, dude, if she plays Catwoman, I'm like, look, if he's happy. And this Warner Media thing, they announced that title pretty quick. I think they're moving pretty quickly. I don't think we're going to wait a year or two before we hear big announcements. I think we might hear some stuff if they reach out. And look, Forbes published an article. Forbes published an article that they need to restore the Snyderverse. Now we got this covered. Forbes.
But for you, this all leads back to Ben Affleck and
Ben being happy, yes, because apparently he was very unhappy during Justice League. I'm saying it. People's mental states. can affect it. He's got to get in shape again. He's got to put those big muscles on, those 8-pack that he has.
You think he's looking at J-Lo?
Listen. You ever worked out when you're single and then worked out when you're dating? You work on harder when you're dating. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to eat celery tonight. You do. And the girl you're dating is not just any girl. It's Jennifer Lopez. He'll be the best ripped Batman. He's going to look better than he did in BVS. Absolutely. His mental state and who he's dating definitely will affect. If he's in a good mood, you ever been in a good mood and you agree to stuff you don't want to do? I'm telling you. There we go.
Thanks for dropping by,
Doggy Melons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, again, if you're new, please join us. We have a join button. We have 3 different tiers. Jack, you have the face of a young A-Rod. Ooh, that's a compliment. I think that's
the face of a young A-Rod.
Young
A-Rod. A-Rod.
Dude, A-Rod's a handsome guy. I mean, he was a Yankee. I'm not a big fan of his, but but he's a real life Bruce Wayne after all. A-Rod.
There you go.
He's real life.
Taylor will love him so much he's ready to be Batman again.
Exactly. That is my theory.
What you really think? Oh my gosh!
I'm saying if he's in a good place mentally, like he wasn't during BVS, and I think it will totally. I think it could affect it because if he's in a bad place, he's gonna be like, no, I don't want to do it. Give it to the guy from Twilight. So, listen, any of you guys into WWE at all? I'm just going to look at the viewer count. If it drops, we'll just end the show. Are you guys into WWE at all? Were you ever back in the day?
I you know what? Actually, as a little kid, yes. As a little kid, I did enjoy it, and I had like little wrestling toys and stuff and all that, little action figures and stuff.
But recently, the last couple of years, they've had struggles with creating new stars. But especially during the pandemic, they let go a lot of superstars last year. But just earlier yesterday, they released that they're getting rid of some of stars. Now, a lot of these are not big stars, but a couple of them stand out. This guy was their champion like a couple of weeks ago. He was a big guy. He's about 6'8". He was a powerhouse. And the fact that they got rid of him shows me that the company's kind of in decline. I don't know if WWE will be around much longer. I don't know. I'm not saying they'll be gone completely.
Yeah.
They got rid of her. I mean, she was really popular, but they're losing money. They're hemorrhaging money. And
Prakash says he only follows highlights, which is basically all I really watch or know about is any highlights. Raw and SmackDown, they used to be events. And I remember it used to be like a fun thing to watch. And I haven't watched it in years. Now
it feels like a slog. I try to watch every now and then when WrestleMania season comes because we love WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We talked about, I think it was SmackDown or WrestleMania, one of them that happened like a month or two ago.
Yeah, WrestleMania.
And, even then, me and Ty were kind of talking about like, man, you don't know any of these guys really anymore. I think at that one, it was a girl had won the championship. Oh, but she was great, and she's gone. She's been gone for 2 years. And I loved her. She was probably my because she got pregnant. She's going to take care of her family life. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I would hate to see the industry die. But they haven't, like, you say what you will about John Cena, at least the dude brought attention. But, like, The Rock brought attention. Yeah, a full match. Now, the matches are too long now. Now they try to do, like, 20-minute matches. I'm like, dude, the 5-minute matches, attitude, style, that's what we want. We don't want, like, 20-minute matches. I mean, some people, wrestling fans, they want 20-minute matches. AEW, that's the new one. That's actually really good. I heard about this, yes.
It's actually really good. Started by a Pakistani. AEW. Yes, son. Pakistani American. NXT is also another good one. But it doesn't have the pop culture. Yeah, that's true, Prakash. Yeah, because a lot of ex-WWE guys are going there. And they're giving them more freedom. WWE wants to keep it scripted. I mean, obviously. Uh-oh. I didn't do it.
I was going to say, did he make another? Was this supposed to happen?
I don't think Ty's here anymore. Who did that?
The broadcast has been interrupted.
Hijacked.
Jack likes to say I'm his Robin. I love you, Jack, but after last night, man, I think I'm Batman now. I'm gonna just say that. Last night I had some crazy I had four back-to-back Fortnite wins, 10 kill games. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, there you go. Guys, we have gaming channels. We have gaming stuff. We're getting there. It was supposed to be Drip's thing. Drip is still working on a gaming video we recorded 2 months ago, but we'll get there eventually. Drip, like I said, he's our Lindsay Lohan. Or you could say he's not a Lindsay Lohan. He's our Misha Barton, who apparently was a nightmare on the set of the OC. Sorry, there, I got that out of the way.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Adam.
He's our Misha Barton. Yeah.
But yeah, so last night, so now, that's right. I've actually upgraded. I'm not even Batman anymore. I'm just Alfred at this point. I'm the wise. But actually, real quick, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about.
You can read there's no sarcasm there. Like there's no you means it.
As soon as somebody mentions Drip on the show, Big Drip on the show, or Justice or anything, you just know the comments are gonna light up.
Billy Roberts
Can't
and Adam.
stand that kid. I don't like him. No.
I mean, don't you like him being like lit up, like he's about in a kidnapper's basement? Like, help me, Remember the one time he did a show in the closet? Please look it up, folks. He once did a show where he was just locked in his closet like Harry Potter. Isn't Harry Potter do that or something?
Yeah. I don't know who does that. So, fun fact: haven't seen any of the Harry Potter movies.
Really? I actually watched them over the when the first lockdown started. We kind of went through them.
So I did the Lord of the Rings when the lockdown.
Oh, so we did that too.
Yeah. So I had
because they released it in 4K.
Yep.
Yeah, and those first three Lord of the Rings movies are stellar. Speaking of fantasy, this might be a segment we actually needed. Drip trapped in the closet. I'm trapped in the closet. Tom Cruise is in the closet.
Drip, drippity, drip.
Yeah, I wonder what drip means. Is that like a dirty meaning?
I don't know. I like Justice's picture without makeup. You guys show when you bring. Oh my gosh, the nun. He's talking about the nun.
Well, did you guys ever see when Drip is skinny now, but he used to be overweight? This used to be Drip back in the day. Look at that.
Oh my gosh, bro, I love it.
That's Drip back in the day. Yeah,
every show. I love how it's like every show.
Every show, man.
Justin Hines makes an interesting thing. So I did film school, right, for 4 years, and I had a very eccentric film teacher. Love the guy, absolutely love the guy, and he has, he's a brilliant, really brilliant guy. However, he has a bit of an obsession with Harry Potter, and so like throughout high school and all that, he would just talk about Harry Potter, right? He would constantly compare like some of these, like we'd be talking about aliens, and somehow the conversation wraps back to how Harry Potter is just like so great. And I'll never forget one time I put my hand up and I'll be honest,
this is the first time I've heard you say it. I know maybe you might have mentioned it before, but I didn't know you went to film school.
Yeah. I know, and that's like the second time I've said I've seen exorcisms too, from like since the first week.
Since yesterday.
Since yesterday, so it would always come back to Harry Potter. I remember I raised my hand. My hand one day, and I was like, "So, like, is there any other cinematic achievement besides Harry Potter we can talk about?" Because I'll be honest, I haven't even heard. Like, I heard great things about Harry Potter, right? And people love him. I have never once heard, not once in my entire life, have I heard anything about like how the Harry Potter films are any type of cinematic achievement, or like they're just good movies.
You could say they're not real cinema.
Yeah, there we go, Mark. I'll pull a Martin Scorsese. Guys, I'll say it right here, right now. Harry Potter is not real cinema. It's just movies you guys like. But anyways, moving on.
Moving on. So next time I thought Justice might be for the. I am very little into anime. I've watched a few.
Right.
But I just wanted to say, apparently this is coming back. I never watched Sailor Moon. Yeah. Apparently it's coming back. And I know it was popular when I was a kid, but this is probably gonna be the thing we're gonna end it on.
I literally know nothing about it, but I know.
Did you guys ever watch Sailor Moon? Because I didn't.
Right.
But we do it for you. We talk about these things. We talk about these things because we do it for you, folks.
I did want to just quickly mention, obviously, Jupiter's Legacy. Didn't make it, but guys, we'll see. They are gonna continue the world. So the supervillain world. But yeah, as of right now, that was the big news yesterday. Everybody was kind of talking about it. So actually, after this video, I would love to hear in the comments, or if you guys go on our Twitter, tweet at us, do something. Let us know. This just looks like Dobby from horror. Okay, see, I know who Dobby is. I know who Dobby is. I haven't seen him, but I know who he is, so I can kind of get that reference.
Oh my god!
But yeah, that was the big news of yesterday, right? Jupiter's Legacy is moving on, and but I would love to hear you guys. What did you guys think of Jupiter's Legacy? There seems to be quite a divide. I really didn't like it. Ty mentioned he did like it, so I'm sure we'll have a conversation about that soon.
Yeah.
But guys, go on our Twitter, go on our Instagram, our Facebook. Let us know. Go in the comments here. Like, Toby!
Oh my goodness.
Every time he surprises us with a picture. It's either Jody, that, or the nun.
Yeah.
But guys, make sure and like the channel, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Don't forget to go check out Donovan on Into the West in a couple hours here.
Yep.
And guys, let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you want us to review. And that's why we're here. That's why we do it.
We're here because we basically do this for you. Again, reminder: if you missed our Conjuring thing, if you haven't seen the movies, I don't think you necessarily have to see them to understand the third one. Except that just two main characters are in the paranormal. Check out our quick dip from yesterday. We kind of went into it. And make sure you support your local movie theaters. That's one of our big things here. We like the movies. We want the movies to continue. And so, look, for those of you, I think Adam and Billy became members today. If you're new to the channel and you're interested in the content we do the morning pod in the mornings. We do Jivin With Jack twice a week. We do Quick Dip on Wednesdays. On Fridays, we have Into the Comic Roundtable. Then we have our big podcast on Saturdays, which you can also listen to on wherever podcasts are available. And then, we want to give away prizes. We want to give away stuff. We're already doing it. Our goal is, there he is.
Oh, my God. We're giving justice away. No, okay.
Yeah, give justice away. I just like how he was so anti-religion while wearing a rosary. I'm like,
I know. I always think that's funny.
That's funny. But guys, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you. Justice, thank you. It looks like he's looking right at me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking down on you, man. Oh man.
Quick, bring Jody back.
Feel like...
Oh, guys.
I know,
if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Ooh, yeah. Oh, there we
Black
go.
Widow,
We didn't get to her.
Widow.
No,
she's coming. It's coming soon, guys. Again, we love you.
You know what? Tyler is so brilliant. He made the bottom tier Justice. So if you don't like Justice, you want to get the Jack Attack or the
actually.
TY. Yeah.
$2.99.
$2.99 is what Justice spends on clothes every year.
Oh my gosh.
He goes to the thrift store, and that's fine. We love Justice. Well, not all.
We do. We love Justice. We love Justice.
We love picking on him too. But
guys, we love you. We hope you come back. We'll see you again next Tuesday.
We have more skits.
That's right. We have more skits.
We do it for you, and we do it for the culture.